Now. Yep, we're live now. So.
Put it so J Ball like, bro.
Hope you get a box, son. Like a box.
Me and my homie Todd.
Which one? Yeah, a little bit of what's that?
Over here. Over here. You aiming that thing there? Oh, got it. Hey, I got
Good looking out.
Also to go things in the back.
Good looking out.
Grits, eggs, bacon, grits, biscuit, waffle.
Good looking out.
as I would expect. It was done really well.
Still got one.
I'm glad you got it. I'm glad you got it. I don't know if he's real or not. Like, technically, he's not real. We have like a bin, the come, he sits around here too much. Like anybody with money don't have it time to sit around. But he kind of always kept the guy there. He was missing his black pilot group. Working in the cab airport. I was like, he kind of takes me out. I keep my helicopter there. Another time, so I just don't seem that heavy. I was like, but do you know Lake Hall? And I don't know if you remember, I introduced you to a kid that worked at Dillard's that was trying to be a pilot about 2 or 3 years ago. He had this kid in tow with him, and they were talking about pilot stuff, and that's how it came. I was like, Mr. Moore is really into the whole black pilot aviation movement. So this weekend, by the way. See, I told him about that. Yeah. Are you going? You don't have time? Yeah. Really know that? Yeah. If I can catch y'all in the deal at the same time, I'll introduce you. And I want you to sign it. And a lot of sitting around here. So my gut says some ain't had nothing. They let the folks know who it is. Other than that, they just exactly. Like, again, I'm intrigued because I've got a pretty good sniffle for that bullshit at this point. But this one kind of though. This one is like, is that shit real or not? But I'm leaning towards not. But I just want to see if you can. Yeah. Exactly. That's what they make it. I mean, because if you got the money, you either are using it to do what you want to do, or it's people chasing you trying to get to it. So I know how it is with him, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he has some days where he has flexibility, but for the most part, he ain't gonna be just hanging out every day. Let me get this party started. Hopefully. Tony, this is Toronto. Y'all ready? You got it. Do it. Stay close, Chef J. Paul. Stay close. Stay close. You need. Well, go get your wife then.
Good morning. How you all doing this morning? All right. We want to thank you all for coming out to Town Hall 3. This is our Memorial Day edition. The first thing I always want to test when we have these breakfasts and these get-together, how was the food? Very good. All right, so again, you all know our mission at the Allen Entrepreneurial Institute is to increase the size and number of minority and women-owned businesses throughout the United States and globally. And we found that one of the businesses here that works really well with our operation is Chef J. Paul and Hightower Catering. So if you all would just come forward and grab this for Chef. What they do for us, and they work all over New Black Wall Street. I'm not gonna make that the top this morning. All right. Thank you all. All right. So this morning we really want to look at, as we celebrate Memorial Day in the New Black Wall Street market. We want to look at commemorating 102 years since the bombing of the original Black Wall Street in Tulsa. Ahead to what we're doing as a community to set history. And to make the world a better place for Black folks to do business and entrepreneurship. And particularly today, Mr. Allen asked us to think of talking about commercial real estate development. So we have an illustrious panel of guests that are coming before you all this morning. But y'all know I always like to be out at least one little funny before I get started. I look at Mr. Allen like, oh, what is he coming with this? So she was trying to really teach a kid about self-esteem, how to have good self-esteem. So she asked him a question. And she said, all right, students, let's talk about self-esteem. Now, which one of you all in here, anybody that's in the classroom that feels like you're a dummy, stand up. So the kids looked at her, they were just sitting there. And all of a sudden, Tommy, a little smart, he got up, and he stood up, she's like, tell me, you really feel like you're a dummy? And he looked over and said, well, I'm keeping it alone, or what's going on? So I got some questions and stuff up here with me. They're going to serve as a panel for us today, so I'm not going to be standing up here before you all. I also, do we have any elected officials in the room? I always want to make sure I recognize my elected officials and the city council members. Okay. Also, I do want to recognize we have a very special commission to us, the Stonecrest Development Authority. We have the Vice Chair of that authority, Mr. Chris Brooks. Lord, Seabrook. I'm sorry, I totally love that. But Chris also is a leader here in our community. He's the head of the Stonecrest Chamber of Commerce as well. So, Chris, I'm glad that you're here to hear this conversation about what we're doing with the biggest piece of commercial land that exists in Stonecrest today. So our first panelist, as you all know, you'll be hearing from him first, is our founder, Mr. Leicester Bill Allen. So he's going to take the stage. We'll be your Also, we have Mr. Herman Howard, principal partner at is it Tate Hanson?
Yeah.
We also have Adesola Beatty, who is the owner and executive CEO of Beatty Commercial Real Estate. And we have Commissioner Gene Andrews from the city of Alpharetta, and also the CEO of Global Entertainment Group. We have attorney Brittany Anderson joining us as well. Brittany. Also in attendance, we have Monique Seals, who's the managing broker for Beatty Commercial, if you would, raise your hand. And Charlie Hightower from Relots, and he buys and sells land. And the young lady that brought us to this group, Mrs. Kenya Taylor, who also represents Beatty Commercial. And so we're going to begin with a special presentation from Mr. Bill Allen, and then we'll get into asking these panelists some questions, and then we're going to get some questions from the audience as well. So, Mr. Allen.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for coming to the New Black Wall Street Market and to our third summit group. The purpose of this group is to keep you informed of where we are going, what we're doing, and to solicit your support so that we can continue to move forward with the things that we're doing. I'm not really going to make a long speech, but over the years that I've been in this, about 50 years, I've learned a lot of things, and I've had to examine myself and understand how did I get to where I am from whence I've come. And so, one of the things that I have put together, some people call them Allen-isms, but we are products of our environment, our exposures, our experiences, as well as our DNA. And so, I want to talk a little bit about my DNA. So you see a picture of Morris Allen Sr. And I don't know whether you can see this or not, but Morris Allen Sr., who was my grandfather, believe it or not, was born in 1850. If you do some calculations, that means that he was born in slavery. So, why grandfather? Of course, long before I was born, he was deceased. But my mother often told me about the things that the land that my grandfather accumulated during Reconstruction. And I'm telling you that story because that's part of our environment, our experiences. And so many of you have family stories in your family. And so I did not realize as a child how much I would remember the stories that I was being told about my grandfather and how much that would influence my thinking. So what we want you to think about, especially on Memorial Day, is to think about our ancestors. Those of us of African descent on the continent of Africa and many of the countries, they often pray to their ancestors for strength for the future. And it's so important, I think, that we pull on the strength of our DNA, our experiences. The next person. This person, Joe Allen Sr., who was my father. We don't have a lot of pictures of him. But he was actually born in 18, died in 1953 when I was a small child. And I often think about my father, who was a sharecropper. But when he was in his actually late 40s, he was starting a business. It had not progressed enough for him to live out of. But he was starting a funeral business and a burial association. Again, why am I telling you this? Because we draw from our ancestors and we draw from our past. And I want you to reflect on some of the members of your family, some of the things that they have done that help create and make you who you are. Now, this lady, Rebecca Allen, my mother, 1901 to 1986. This was the most impactful life. In fact, many of you are aware that the motion picture Greenleaf was filmed here in Stonecrest, and the house is known across the United States and across the world, actually, as the Greenleaf Mansion. But I'm here to tell you, that's Miss Rebecca's house. She was deceased in 1986. But I was so inspired by her and her teaching that I was determined to build a mansion in her honor, although she had never seen it. So we are proud of our experiences, our environments, our exposures, as well as our DNA. So I want to now let's go to New Black Wall Street. Yeah, let's stay on some of these. Let's not flip through all of them. Let's go back to some of the earlier ones. Stop right there. You see every building here, every store. This was built by people who look like us in the early 1900s. In fact, O.W. Gurley, who grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, which is where I grew up in Dumas, Arkansas, bought the first 40 acres of land to create this. This is what I want you to see and understand. In the early 1900s, we were building brick buildings and stores and everything. Why are we not doing that now? That's the question. That's what we should be thinking about. Why are we not doing that now? We should, we can, and we must start owning more of our communities, especially in which we live. Therefore, having been in business for many, many years and been very successful, as the scripture says, to whom much is given, much is required. More than 20 years ago, I came to Atlanta and I established the entrepreneur to help young people understand how to start developing ownership of businesses. And through that time, we've actually had 12 or 13,000 young people all the way through post-secondary colleges, many of your HBCUs have attended this institute and stayed in our hotels without any cost to them. Because this was my contribution to help understand how important it is. A picture's worth 1,000 words. This is why I chose to show you these pictures. This is what was done more than 102 years ago. And we should look at one another and say, we can and we must do better. So, if we can now go to how the future of development within Stonecrest. This is what this building looked like when we started with it. It was an open space for a former Target building. You have to have vision, people, but you also have to have dedication, fortitude, and be willing to put your money where your mouth is. So many of us want to talk. You really have to commit to doing this. And it doesn't mean that you have to have everything yourself. But the purpose this morning is to say to you, don't give up. Refuse to allow things to continue to go on. I'm so grateful to our former leaders many years ago, the Malcolm X, all the different groups who provided through blood, sweat, and tears for us to have access to buy property, to buy homes, to go to almost, actually any restaurant we particularly want to go to. But now it's time for us to bring the economics, the ownership. And so when you see, we need to stop talking about how many times the dollar turns over in the Jewish community, how many times it turns over this, and it only stays 30 seconds. You can do something about that, people. You can support the businesses, starting with the one here at New Black Wall Street. We have made it convenient for you not to have to travel all across metropolitan Atlanta, especially knowing how busy the traffic is. It would take you an hour to get from here to Alpharetta, and an hour to get from Alpharetta back home to a business. So we've assembled more than 100 businesses. So the purpose today is to say to you, come and spend your money here at the New Black Wall Street and support these businesses. These are new businesses. And when I say that they're new, yes, there are people who have been in business for 5 years. But do you realize that in the Jordan community, there are people who have handed down 50 years and 100 years, and yes, we're still learning some things. And we're not going to be as perfect as we should be. But one of the things that we do here at New Black Wall Street, we try to train and educate our businesses on many aspects of running their business. We try to help them understand the importance of bookkeeping so that they will be able to have a record where they can apply to lending institutions. As you see, various celebrity people have been here, and that's good. This is an African delegation that came over. This is the ambassador of, I think, Rwanda?
Uganda.
Uganda? Uganda, his wife, and several others that come down from Washington, D.C. That's all good. So other people can recognize, I want the people within the close vicinity of Stonecrest and surrounding areas, that other people see what you have here as something very, very important. And so I'm going to end by saying, I'm very serious about the mission increase the number and the size of minority and women-owned businesses. And truthfully speaking, I'm talking about black folk owning more of their community. Thank you very much.
We now will introduce the panelists. I have a few questions that I'm going to ask and let the panelists field those, and then we'll have questions from the audience. So if we can go first. Our first panelist is Mr. Herman Howard. As you all have met before, he's the architect, so his questions will come from that perspective. We also then have Commissioner Gene Andrews, who is a commissioner over in Alfred, and he's also involved in the entertainment industry. And then Brittany Anderson, who is an entertainment attorney and a real estate attorney as well. Okay, so one question that, and again, how this all kind of came together, oftentimes people come, our economic development director, Will Smith, was like, there's a group that you need to meet that we feel like can really be helpful with the development. They understand what's going on. And so he brought this group over, and I was sitting eating with him, and being around Mr. Allen, a lot of people try to get to him, so I kind of sniffed the fakes and the real ones. So I was like, y'all smell right. I felt that they were a very common group, and I said, you know what? I need some expertise on this panel, and so I invited them down, and I really appreciate this group coming out on such short notice to be a part of this, because as we were having a conversation, I'm like, this is the conversation our community needs to hear. And so they kept it real, and so when I could smell it, I was like, yeah, you all need to be a part of this. So one of the questions that we want to ask you all, what factors do you believe contribute to long-term sustainability of a development project in terms of both economic viability and community impact? What does it take, folks, to really pull together a good commercial development? We have a mic here, and I think there's a mic that will be floating in the audience. So, Brittany, if you would grab that mic, who would like to field that question for? That's kind of, I think, a more of a real estate development question. And also Herman may well too as well.
Yeah. Good to meet you guys. I'm the president and CEO of Dallas Commercial Real Estate based out of Alpharetta. I just want to make sure I introduce myself because apparently I haven't passed the smell test to get introduced. No, all jokes. But to answer your question, listen, the Atlanta area has become small pockets of mixed-use developments over these last, I would say, 10 or 15 years. So we started to see, this started to happen with the Atlanta station downtown. I think that was one of the first ones. But when we talk about Stonecrest, as a city, how can be economically viable? First of all, it starts with you all, the people, right? Making sure that you guys have the education and the financial education to support, businesses that are going to be here. From a mixed-use perspective, nobody wants to drive around. He just said, from here to Alfred is an hour, from here to downtown is probably 45 minutes. So what we've seen as far as success with real estate is these developments that allow you to have everything all in one place. Live there, play there, work there, congregate there, do all of the things in one place. That's what has been successful over the years. So if it can happen in Alpharetta, it can happen downtown, it can happen in West Midtown, why can't it happen in Stonecrest, right? So what we need to do is we need a chicken or egg scenario. What do you bring first? Do you create the jobs? Do you create businesses, or do you try to get people to move here? Well, people are already here. Stonecrest is 90% black, and we like it that way, right? Not create a development that caters to us. And I said this before. I said this in a previous meeting. When I say caters to us, that just means we're primary. It doesn't mean that we don't want anybody else to come here, just like we do other places. But I think that in itself, for us to be able to support something like what Mr. Allen is trying to create here, and to be able to sustain it over several years and several decades, that's what's going to be best for this city and this community. Now, I'm the real estate guy right here in Atlanta. I'm originally from New Orleans. I've been here for over 25 years, so I've seen Atlanta change tremendously since the Olympics on now. And we've seen it everything from downtown, starting to kind of come back, and they're still trying to revitalize it. On up to the north side, right? So, do we live on the north side? That's a question to you all. Yeah. I live there, and I can tell you that there's not a whole lot of us there. So, why not have something that we can all call out in the different parts of Atlanta, namely Stonecrest? So, that's what I think. That's what I think we need. I mean, more meetings like this, more doing and not the same. And if we can continue to do that, then we'll see great things in Stonecrest. I'm gonna pass back over this guy. This is the guy that actually designs this. So he'll probably get some insight from that standpoint.
Yeah, I was actually going to give him a different question. I'm going to make it easy on him. I'm sorry, my slide, man. Let's get up on your picture, man. I didn't get you. But I want to hear about these developments from a planning standpoint. So one of the questions is, in your experience, what are some of the strategies to really engage and involve local stakeholders in the development process to ensure that we actually achieve what Adesola was just speaking of, that we really have real engagement? And so how have you, because I know you deal with that from the architectural standpoint, the planning standpoint, what are things you can really do to engage the community and get their buy-in and get the community involved? And this is what we're doing. What else have you seen that's been really engaging for local stakeholders?
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. And I totally agree with everything that my colleague has just said, so I don't get to this comment. But as Matthew was saying, we're involved in a whole lot. And oftentimes it's before it goes public, but it's not without careful thought. One thing that I'll speak about is one of the major things that is transforming a certain part of Atlanta was Microsoft. And before Microsoft made the decision to come to Atlanta, they were looking at a total of 3 cities. Atlanta was only one of them. So we had to create all of the reasons why. And just as my colleague was saying, so many of those reasons why Stonecrest already exists. But one needs to be able to have meetings and discussions like this. If we had a big sheet of paper on that wall and everyone put their comments on that paper, this is what I want. I want a place that I can shop. I want a place of business. I want a place where I can live. A place where I can raise my children. Every major city is dealing with affordable housing. Years ago, affordable housing used to be immediately associated with low-income housing. No more. Opening, and this is rental, in downtown Atlanta, not necessarily the best part, but they were showing 3 bedrooms that started at small 3 bedrooms that started at $5,700 a month to rent. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, is that affordable? No. Chances are not. Okay, so when we look at Stonecrest with all of the built-in things here, what's the vision that we want? And believe me, if that vision is strong enough, the dollars will find it. And that's the exact thing that happened with Avalon. Because we can joke about how years ago, it was just the woods and the trails and blah, blah, blah. But someone had a vision, and we can talk about what that was. And with our entity, with our firm, we created Avalon. We also created Hustle. We created aren't even public as of yet. But it starts with conversations like this. Because when your voice is heard, the politicians hear that, okay? And it's their charge to create a beautiful environment for their district, for their territory. When that raises to a certain level, then those that are about investment hear that, okay? Now is the perfect time for your vision. A lot of people are talking about recessions and all that sort of stuff. It's not a time when things stop. It's a time when things take a new charge. Now, our business actually increased during the last recession. Our business increased during COVID because that's when people were planning things. They knew we were going to come out of it one day, and when we come out, we need to be able to hit the ground running. And the last thing I'll say is important. It's some will benefit more than others, but right now there's a new schedule. There's a new time zone. There's a new calendar for Atlanta, and that's the World Cup. The city is going to be on the world stage one more time, okay? What does that mean for Atlanta? What does it mean for Stonecrest? What does it mean for the whole line? So what is the vision that we have and that we can begin to clearly articulate, because all of the elements are already Stonecrest. Elements of inspiration and culture that we saw from Tulsa, elements of leadership from Mr. Allen and Matthew and their team, but also elements of your voice, the residents that help to make Stonecrest and the surrounding area.
Thank you so much for that. My next question, I want to go to Commissioner Andrews and just ask you, currently, you deal with culture, you deal with entertainment. How does that play into the mix of what's happening in real estate development? What are the things that you see as emerging trends in the real estate industry that they kind of relate into those areas?
Good morning. Thanks for having me today. I just want to touch on that a little bit. What I wanted to say was we first have to have accountability. When we have accountability, then things change around us. And so what I mean by that is, he said the word vision. People without a vision perish, and people perish for the lack of knowledge. Accountability, then our voice is heard without government. So when we make impact, and we have to be impactful. So I look at entertainment not so much as it being just generic entertainment. The entertainment that we should bring into play should make impact in our community in a positive way. So with real estate and entertainment, so you have the film industry here, not just, they talk about tax credits and things of that nature. It's not Atlanta, it's the Georgia. So Stonecrest can take an opportunity by building good quality sound stages, movie theaters, quality entertainment that makes an impact in our community. And also, what's very important is not so much, as we spoke before, Matthew, about restaurants. We look at our situation when it comes to our health. We need hospitals built in our areas. We need these things because if you look in North Fulton, and I've mentioned this before, Wellstar built a $12 million hospital, Alpharetta Roswell. When you look at South Fulton, they took away the hospitals. They took away the hospitals in Atlanta. So we have to be very proactive, not just to be entertained, because I think that that's what they think that's all that means. So let's look at taking entertainment, taking wellness, taking all these things to develop with my colleagues here in terms of real estate and bring that all together, and I believe that that's what will make the impact in our community.
Yes, Trevor, go ahead.
Atlanta, the state of Georgia, has become number 2 in film in the United States. That's huge. And I'm certainly not going to say anything disparaging against Fairburn. But before Trilla, what was Fairburn? Now Trilla in Fairburn is the #1 location for film in the state of Georgia. And I'm not sure if any of you guys have been out to Trilla. Matthew and Mr. Allen, if you desire to form a trip that we're doing, the vision is huge. What started the vision was one simple guy, Dan Campbell, one simple guy. So there are others here that I'm meeting that are also franchise owners. There are other men here with vision that can get these things done. But what does Trilith have that Stonecrest does not have? What does Fairburn have that Stonecrest? And I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the term tiny houses. But if you want to get a tiny house in Trilith, be prepared to have conversations at 600 and above for a tiny house. And that's going to be about 450, maybe 500 square feet, okay? And it's a complete little mini city out there, driven film business, driven by entertainment, and they're being planned all across. Years and years ago, when this started, the term was Hollywood of the South. And we became involved in looking at a new vision for Fort McPherson because people stood back and looked at the maps and said, oh, well, if you look at what Tyler Perry is doing over here with Greenbrier and his studios, and if you look at Screen Gems, Fort McPherson sits right in the center. And we can create those connectors to connect the two. And that's how Hollywood of the South got started. And there were some politicians that said, okay, let's make this clear. Let's give a really good reason to encourage the film business to come to the southern part of Atlanta, i.e. below the I-20, as opposed to going to the north. So you had politicians that were working with the private side, the voice of the community, and that has added and added and added value to parts of Atlanta that otherwise would not have gotten.
Thank you for that. You actually teed up another question. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I wanted to say was, if you don't know who Dan Cathy is, he's Chick-fil-A. He has nothing to do with film. And the majority of the entertainment industry, they look like you and I, but we don't own it. So what's important, again, so what we should start owning everything that we are part of. You get it?
All right.
If you wear Nike and all these others, and Apple, you should own it. You should own it. I was a senior vice president at Morgan Stanley, so I understand what Wall Street looks like. But I took that knowledge and I took it in other areas. And entertainment, I knew that there was a need for us to start being educated. I tell people I don't do business. I put business before everything. So to your point again, if we want to make impact, then we should start in Stonecrest. Invest. There's nothing wrong with investing in your city where the opportunities are. Film, entertainment is a very big one. And when you have that, no one wants to go nowhere where there's no culture. Atlanta has a culture. So we have to create that same kind of culture right here in Stonecrest.
Thank you for that. So they teed me up really perfect to ask Mr. Allen one of the key questions that exist in the minds and hearts of any proper Stonecrest citizen. And that question is, Mr. Allen, when are you going to get the good restaurants here? How do we get the good restaurants in Stonecrest? That is when we did an economic development study, how many of y'all want to ask that question? That's the question of people in Stonecrest. How do we get those good restaurants that we love so we don't have to keep driving over the perimeter and have to keep driving in the midtown? How do we develop Mr. Allen?
Well, it sounds like a simple question, but it's a complex answer. Restaurants, other businesses go where they can be profitable. The problem in the downtown area of Stonecrest is that there's not enough density of people living and working. Restaurants have to be supported by people going to lunch when they get off work. We live here in Stonecrest, but we don't work here in Stonecrest. So it's like a chicken and an egg situation. So, what are some of the solutions? The development mindset has to be, in order for us to get density here, we have to create housing that will attract young, educated people such as this young attorney here that will want to stay. While many of the older group, like you brag about having 2 acres of land, 1.5 acres, or 3/4 of an acre, they don't want that. So the whole density, we're going to have to look at tiny houses. And they don't have to be quite as expensive at Thrilling. There's a young man that we hope to bring back over here, an African American, who has built a whole community in College Park of tiny houses of about 28 of them on 2 acres of land. And they are between, believe it or not, there's Thriller, between 260 square feet and 360 square feet. But it's amazing. I mean, they're tiny. But here's the thing. You can buy these places, bring that price down to about $265,000 to $365,000. Now I know you all. I mean, let's just face it. Some of us have closets. That's right. You're committed into a closet. But remember, these are the people who will be working at home, who will be supporting these restaurants that you want. And so density is the first thing that these restaurants will have customers during the middle of the day and not just on the occasion when you decide to go out for your birthday, your mom's birthday, your sister's, which comes once a year. They need customers every week.
Good job. And Bridget, we wanted to ask you as a lawyer on the panel, one of the things that is really important about this development is that it's not black folks watching other communities come in and make money. But what do you think what are the important steps? If folks out here, they got a lot of money in their pocket, how do they put that real estate investment in place? And what are the things that they should be doing to prepare to make investment? How do you prepare real estate development and investment?
Thank you. So I would say if you have a lot of money in your pocket, then you'll find a black bank first. Secondly, meet with your local attorneys, local real estate agents, your accountants, CPAs, and really get some education about the plots of land that are available. And not only that, the regulations that are in place as to what can or cannot be built, and to find out what you want to see. But most importantly, get that education, because that's what's going to prepare the entire community as well as individuals to kind of make the community that you want to see, so that you don't always have to go outside the community where you live. You can bring everything that you need or want here.
I just wanted to piggyback on what she said. I mean, we do this all day, every day in my firm, and I think it's important that you guys do what she's saying when she's talking about getting the education about it. I sit down daily with people that look like me and people who don't look like me, and educate them from a real estate perspective on how to gain wealth now and into the future. So a lot of us sit here today, and maybe you don't have a lot, but you have some that you want to put into some sort of investment. You're not sure, what do I do with it? Well, what is the best investment that you can have? You can put your money in the bank, you can put your money in stocks, you can put your money in all these things, but what's always going to be here? Land, right? if you're somebody who does not have enough, that means you have to get together and pool your resources. And for whatever reason, we seem to have a mental block with that. We don't want to put our money with somebody else's money. Well, listen, that's only because we don't understand how to do it. So if you talk about forming LLCs or S corps with Ms. Brittany here who can help you do things like that, you can form things in such a way that you can put money in a place that it will grow. These aren't fast investments. It never is, right? I mean, there's no get rich quick scheme, but there is a get rich and pass on scheme. So take the time to sit down with people, like myself or like people in my firm or like Ms. Brittany here, or just people who understand real estate, so that you can understand how do I take what I have and make it into more. If you put your money in the bank, how much money you're gonna, how much interest is that? Not very much point. Right. And how much is real estate year over year? How much is the increase? Now that number changes, but it could be 3%, 5%, it's going to continue to go up. If you have a plot of land, one of the things that we do when we take people in to purchase a piece of land, we help them understand the developer's outlook on that particular piece of land. You may be sitting on 2 acres and think it's worth whatever that 2 acres in that house is. Well, a developer may look at it from a different perspective and say, hey, I can get this rezoned to, let's just say R8, where the density, like Mr. Allen was talking about, is much higher, so it's worth much more than that. We've had people who thought their land was worth $300,000 or $400,000, but it's really worth, 1.5, 2 million, based on what's going to come there later on. So you really have to be laser focused on getting that acumen. And then another thing I want to say, because I don't want to take too much time, is we have to get past that psychological block. There's we're spanning 3 or 4 generations now. We talk about the baby boomers, we talk about Generation X and millennials. Like Mr. Allen was talking about, as the older generation, you have to be willing to be open and understanding of the generations behind you and the knowledge that you have afforded them to acquire over this time, right? So, baby boomers put Gen X and Gen Y in place to get a lot more education and be a lot further along. We don't want you to have to suffer the way that we did, right? And that generation does the same for those behind them. Let your ears be open to what they're telling you and talking about, because guess what? They were sitting at the table with some of the other folks that wouldn't give you the information, and now they have it. All right?
Of course, building and something else. There's something called operating. And it's important to know what that means. Basically, if you invest here, the government will give you money to do that. So you might say that, I'll just pick on this table because it's close. One person may not have money to buy this property in this area. But if you speak with the other people at your table, then maybe you can come together and do this. And also doing your research, as was being talked about, if it's in a certain part of town, an opportunity zone, or where you can get tax credits, tax incentives, all that happens even before we get to it. There are benefits to do that. And we had so many clients coming to us, asking us about opportunity zones. It was like, wow, what are they talking about? So we had to do research just to keep up. So now we can tell you where all the opportunity zone sites are in the state of Georgia. Why? Because opportunity zones were set up, not for you, but for others in your community, and invest their dollars without getting taxed for it. So when you think about that, that's pretty deep. And it wasn't for us, but we need to know how to take advantage of it. Because oftentimes, it's in our own backyard.
Thank you for that. I want to ask the panelists one kind of final question. I'm coming to you all because it's really important that we get questions from the community and from you all. When you have these panel discussions, you want to make it feel all nice overcome those challenges? And again, I want Mr. Allen to last. I want to he'll wrap up this question for us, and then we're going to go to the community to give you for your question.
Yeah, I think it's quite simple. I just think that from a mindset standpoint, we just need to make sure, right, and not being hamstrung by what people were telling you all that you can't do. I think Mr. Allen said earlier when we were all sitting at the table together, there's something that I live by. There's a lot of saying and not doing, right? So do what you say you're going to do, and understand that nobody can tell you that you can't do, right? There is no can't. I'm reading a book right now. It's called 10 times is better than 2 times, and it's the mindset of you can double something, right? But you can 10 times it just the same way. So it's not any harder, and I'm sure Mr. Allen can attest that times over. But that is the biggest thing. And you all are in the room today, so the mindset is clearly there. But it's taking each and every person that's in here and multiplying that. We need to get to a point where there's not just hundreds of people in here, but thousands of people getting the message and sitting in front of panels like ours. And listen, we're no more special than you guys, but we have information to share. So share your information. So I think that's one of the things.
I would go back to something earlier, and that would be just vision. If you don't live in Stonecrest, what is the vision of Stonecrest now? Let's say to that outside. But what is the vision to the insider that you want it to be? And Atlanta has a huge history of transforming areas. We talk about Tech Square in Midtown. Years and years ago, that used to be one of the seats, okay? Now, the catalyst of Georgia Tech coming in changed it, totally changed it. Years ago, many of your developers and investors were not looking at anything not looking at anything below the I-20. Now the I-20 or South Fulton is some of the most coveted pieces of dirt in all of Atlanta. So it's not that potential isn't here, but what do you see vision that you have for Stonecrest in making it something beyond Avalon, making it something beyond Tech Square, something beyond even with what the city of South Fulton is planning now. So there's many elements, and on that list, that's your ingredient right there. And that's an amazing place to start. And I would go back again to what is your vision for Stonecrest, and what is it you desire to see for where you educate your children, where you play, and where you work.
And one thing let me say one thing, and I want to resonate with you all. If you don't do it, they will. And who is they? They aren't you. That's okay. They will do it. So see the us or them.
Yes. Say this. If every neighbor were just like me, what kind of city would Stonecrest? Right? So when they were speaking, and I want to be clear on this. If you're a family that's fighting over one house or property, what a disservice to your community and your family. Every time someone passes away in our family, we want to sell, sell, sell. When I came in here, I saw 3 words. 1 word 3 times. Ownership. Bring your family together. It's like bringing your community together. So I think Stonecrest has everything. We're all a toolbox. So in that toolbox, we have hammers, wrenches, screwdrivers, and all that. A lot of times we all have that hammer mentality. And it's just hammers in your toolbox. And I want to leave this with you. The mark of greatness is truly upon you. You must not limit yourself to the short side beliefs of others. You can because you think you can. You can because God says you can. Look at you feeling good, looking good, smelling good. You are a masterpiece of creation.
I would say stakeholder buy-in, and everybody, every individual, every person that lives in Stonecrest is a stakeholder. So think about what your community could be if you came from, or you graduated from an individual mindset to a collective mindset. Because that's what this whole vision is about. Having Stonecrest build, be better, be more Black ownership focused, and individuality, and what can I do for my community? What can my community do for my legacy, my generation? That's whenever the community will start to build and start to come together as a collective and start to plainly see the vision and how they can commune and help support other businesses come to the area and help support other individuals come and stay in the area, and then we'll start to understand why something like this is necessary.
To me, the greatest challenge is getting people to understand possibilities and the vision of what can happen here in the city of Stonecrest. When I first bought land here, it was not the city of Stonecrest. It was part of DeKalb County. But in the last 6 or 7 years, the citizens voted to incorporate it into a city. And it gave a lot of unique opportunities. I will repeat again, I'm in a little different position than most of the people on this panel. For one thing, I'm older than they, and I've experienced a lot more. And the next thing is, I'm not at this point in my life trying to build my personal wealth. I have a vision of legacy, as you have talked about. And it came across my mind the other day. The most unique opportunity that we have at Stonecrest presented itself in over 300 years. Let me tell you what that opportunity is. Slavery actually is 400 or so years. No time since slavery, when we had the Reconstruction period in which there were a number of Black cities created, Mount Wow, Mississippi, you had towns in Oklahoma, Boley, over small towns that were predominantly African American, in addition to Tulsa. But are you all aware that none of those towns or cities had more than 3,000 or 4,000 people? Stonecrest is a city of 60,000, in which the majority of the ownership within this city, the residents are owned by Black people. And we have some nice houses here. Everybody live in a shack here. Some very nice houses. And we own a number of nice businesses. You have the owner of Bojangles here. You have McDonald's. I could go on. Then you have Linda's restaurant. And, you have a mall. So what is the unique opportunity that hasn't been done in 300 some years? At no time in the history of Black people in the United States has any city above 5,000 or 10,000 people, and we got 60,000 here, has ever had the majority, not all, but the majority of businesses owned by Black people. So, I say to say I'm in a little different position. When I bought the 300 plus acres of land surrounding the mall, already owned another 150 acres plus some other pieces, not including this building here and some other pieces that we own. The idea was not to flip the land and make some more money so I could buy some more houses because I could only live in one house and one bed. The idea was to try to figure out how to put together a system in which, through tax abatement, since Stonecrest is not an opportunity zone, so you can't get the tax benefit of that, but through this tax abatement, it follows the land, and that I could sell off small pieces to black people where they could develop this project, a $10 million project. Now, I know that the major projects here are going to require majority investment. It's going to require Wall Street money. We're going to come up with $1 billion to $1 billion billion dollars to develop something like that without having majority companies here. But I still believe there is a way those majority companies come and invest in this land, and that's why I'm fighting to hold on to it, where I can make the decisions without being pressured into selling it and just making another truckload of money. And what am I going to do with it at this stage of my life? I'm interested in legacy people. And that's what we ought to be interested in, of making history and unity. If I can get you to understand the vision of what we're trying to do, then it is all worth it. And you can help by, number one, understanding the bigger picture. And as you said, let's not make this about every individual, everybody's idea. Let's figure out to do what Tulsa did, the Greenwood District, over 100 and something years ago, and not have this squabbling in between us. And as I said, my agenda is to try. I don't know if I'm going to succeed, but I'm going to give it my best shot to pass on and create opportunity for some of these people who are developers and things of that nature to develop a small piece. And when it's all said and done, we will still have the majority ownership of the commercial land within the city. And it will be the first time in more than 300 years. It will be the first time in the history of black people in these United States that it happened. I think it's worth the risk. I think it's worth my time. I think it's worth my effort. And I'm going to keep fighting. And what you all can do, thank you.
Thank you, Zach. All right, hold the line has the microphone for the audience, and so if you will, I saw your hand go up first, so we'll come up here and get this young lady with the black hat, and then we'll bounce around here, chair, I see, and I'll come here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you. Thank you all, and Mr. Allen, thank you for your vision. I have 3 points I'd like to bring out. How do we multiply? How? Because I do have equity that I'd like to multiply. I come here every week to Stonecrest. I come to church here, I come to serve here, and I volunteer right here at New Black Wall Street because I believe in it. The second thing is, how do we multiply our gifts, like manufacturing, so we don't have to buy somebody else's product and resell it at a high price? The third thing is, I have something to bring to this custom broker, which gives me the opportunity to import and export. I like to do that on a big level for all of us so we can do international trade. And we can all do it together with all of us putting our gifts together. And I put my hand up for that. And I thank everybody for coming today. And I hope all you guys get on board to be major contributors, not just financially, but service-wise, and come and support the businesses that are here. So this is our city. Let's take care of it so that the rest of the generation will have a place to come to and have property that is Black owned. And thank you, everyone.
Anyone want? Oh, I didn't know to the next one. You might want to find that.
First of all, I want to take a quick moment and thank each and everyone on this board. Mind-boggling. Thank you so much for sharing. My question is, I come from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Lived there for over 20 years. And we tried to do what was done in times past, but we're unable to. I want to brand new business where I'm so grateful to Mr. Allen. Is there a committee that is specifically designed to formulate those of us who are novices and are unfamiliar with development, large-scale investment, that we can compile our resources to help get behind his vision and support him? Help! I need somebody. Anybody.
Okay, you want to try to? You want to feel that one? Go ahead. Maybe you spoke to it.
I think the question is, are there any committees specifically for formulating? I wouldn't say that there's any committee. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely avenues to help you just get around the right people. I mean, we're happy to help you. You know, if you wanted to reach out to us, we would have those conversations with you. I think you just need to get in front of folks that have that knowledge. You know, there's nothing wrong with gaining the knowledge and creating your own community. I mean, I just think that, you know, we just need to pool our resources, all come together in forums like this. You know, we've talked about for some time, and we haven't done it yet, but we've talked about avenues, sort of classes for exactly what you're talking about. There are folks out there that are doing some things along that nature, but from a real estate perspective, I think that's what it takes. So maybe that's an ongoing conversation. We'd be happy to facilitate something like that.
To answer that, I believe if you don't have it, you create it, as you said. But there's enough people in this room on a weekend seminar. Just do a seminar. And then we come together, and again, as I said, I use the toolbox analogy. Everybody's in here as a tool. Everything that's been said in this room, we have access. I think that's what the bigger picture is for us as a people. We don't have access, and we need to have access from people that look like you and I, because they know how. People that don't look like us, they know how to keep us out. But we can't use that excuse, because excuse only good for people that make them. So I believe that with a conversation maybe with Mr. Allen and their group, we could probably put together a nice seminar, and then you gain exposure to the information you need.
And I think that's something that the New Black Wall Street market would be happy to host. And we don't understand the different levels of investment, different levels of investment. So that's something that we can work on here. I know there was a question back here that I was talking about over here. One and then two. I remember.
Good morning, good morning. I'm Ladina Bolton, Dr. Bolton. I'm actually a chemist and a lead at the Coca-Cola Company, but I'm here today because recently my family and I have acquired several businesses. And as some of you may know, our commissioner, Cochran Johnson, annually, she does a franchise expo, in which we go to that, but there's some issues with accessibility. And my question kind of relates to the young lady who asked her question.
in the front of the room. One of the problems is that this franchise expo is actually in Cobb Galleria. She's a DeKalb County commissioner, but her partnerships are more than a jump, hop, and a skip away from where we are today, essentially. And so I would love to see something like that here, especially on the southern side of the county, because of course we all know that franchisee is a smart or reasonable dip in the pool for some of us who may be intimidated by ownership otherwise. And so are there any plans for New Black Wall Street to work with our county leadership and maybe stakeholders in this room to do something like that here in the southern part of the county?
We have a very good and close working relationship with Commissioner Cochran Johnson. She has been extremely helpful along the way in making sure we got this place open. So the answer to your question, yes, we have a relationship. We would love to see that the county, all of the county commissioners would see the opportunity here in the city of Stonecrest as being their largest incorporated Black to work closer with us. And we do have relationships with some of the other commissioners as well. So it is important. Again, my sole objective for you as a group of people is to understand the bigger vision of what we're trying to do. And if you will help spread that word to other people, rather than spread negativism, I think that would be very helpful. We're sometimes to talk about stuff that we really don't understand the magnitude of what we're doing and say that it is bad. So we're very pleased with the relationship we have with the commissioners in general, but in particular, Commissioner Cochran Johnson. Okay?
Good morning. Thank you so much for this workshop. I live in Conyers, and recently our family has been meeting to pull together ideas, monies, talking to attorneys, accountants for building a family legacy and trying to get the education we need to do it properly. I am so impressed, and whoever sent me the email, thank you so much for come here today. We have an annual family reunion that we have been hosting for 112 years. Mr. Allen, I would like to find a way to invite you to that meeting so that we would be able to pull this idea together. But my question today is, since we don't really know what we're doing, I'd like to find a way that we would be able to become a state, some of the vision that has already been established, and be able to contribute not just finances, but skills and talents as well.
Thank you so much for that. And in fact, it's almost as if you played into my hand what I wanted to say. The numbers that it takes from here at the New Black Wall Street, for most people would be frightening. The amount of effort and finances that we're talking about, is extremely large. And going back to the pictures that I showed you at the beginning of this, I never would have thought that I would be dealing with finances that deals in the hundreds of millions and even up to $1 billion of trying to execute this vision. But to answer your question, part of the strategy that I will eventually put together is there will be investment opportunities for people with as little as $5,000 or $10,000 to ownership of the entire, village, as well as the new Black Wall Street. But to be honest, right now, keep this in mind. I don't care if you're a bum on the street. I don't care if you're a baby or old or young. God's made us equal in the sense that we only have 24 hours a day. And I have to be very, very selective about where time. And to you, if you raise $50,000, it may sound like a lot of money to you, but it's like a child bringing in a piggy bank to help you pay not your mortgage, it would help a lot, but not my mortgage. So, yes, I do want to create that opportunity for every person that wants to be a part, not only here in Nation, but I can't focus on that at this point in time. I have to satisfy some of the needs of density within this community, so you'll get those restaurants and get excited, then you want to put some money in and take the chance. So I appreciate it, and believe me, that would be such a happy day that I would be able to say, from a legacy point of view, we created a situation not only in this community, but all across this nation, participated in creating this city where most of the commercial property is still owned by Black people.
Hello everyone, my name is Julian Anderson. I'm the founder of Her Ride. Her Ride's a female-friendly rideshare. We're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. My question to you guys and to the panel is, how can Stonecrest help the tech community? I'm a member of the Gathering Spot, I'm a member of Atlanta Tech Village, and my app is, they call my app the next Uber and Lyft for women. But I've been struggling trying to raise money from VCs and investors and founders in the city of Atlanta. I'm from Athens and I'm from a small town. And so I'm more so interested, I moved to Stonecrest because it's more so, it reminds me of Athens. And so I'm just wondering, how can Stonecrest or how can New Black Wall Street, is there any plans to include the tech community? Because people in my generation, most of us work remote. We will stay home and order out and eat out and do all those things. You can bring the restaurants to Stonecrest if we work remotely, if there is a co-working space for us to work at. So different things like that. I just want to know if there's any plans to include the tech community, because I'm honestly interested in moving my headquarters to Stonecrest.
The short answer is yes. We had the startup factory. I see a number of our operations here, and we've also thought about and looked at how we can bring co-working into this facility. So the short answer is yes. The guy that you're standing next to would be a good person for you to start networking with and start that conversation with. But the short answer is yes, we do want to invite the tech community into the new Black Wall Street market, and we certainly want to embrace you all in Stonecrest. So that's it. We have a member right next to you, so I'm gonna get right now. Going to the gentleman. I see y'all. Y'all get right now. I come to the gentleman and coming on this side.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the panel for doing this educational session. It was very, very helpful. And my name is Betty. I'm a registered nurse, and a nonprofit that I have is Compassionate Nursing. But I want to personally thank Mr. Allen for all that he has been doing, for all of his sacrifice. And in addition to that, I have a shop in New Black Wall Street. And one thing he told me, he said, don't you give up. So I said, yes, sir. And the other thing I want to address is our people not being able to do what you mentioned. I think 95% of that is an educational issue from our children up because the school system is not giving our children what they need. So how do we fix that? What's the solution? What's Health and Compassionate Nurses is trying to do? We partner with the Apex Museum, and we're trying to take children to that museum because if you know your history and you know where you came from, then you know where you need to go. So that's good because we have to do more than just have our children in the public school system. Thank you.
To respond very quickly to that, we have so many things that are on our plans to do. One is to build an African American entrepreneurial museum so that our school districts can bring busloads of children here to the new Black Wall Street, not just to shop, but to be educated. Because as you, there is so much different pressure on the districts. They're not teaching as much about the history of Black people, and especially not about some of the things we've done as entrepreneurs over the years. So on the list of agenda of so many things to do, that is certainly on our list to create a museum, not only to educate our children, but our adults as well in that regard.
Good morning. To Mr. Allen, I just want to say thank you. I understand your struggle, and I met you some time ago. My name is L. Dean Hurd, and I've been an author for life. And as the owner of the first minority-owned MRI center in the Southeast, which I bought a million bucks in 1996 to build an MRI center. I trained on a medical physicist and cross-trained on the nuclear side. But I just tell you families, what's important here is that you start at home. They're not going to all hear what you're talking about. They're not going to hear. Okay, here I have my nephew and my son, and I've been training them for life. And it comes to the fact that when somebody dies in your family, you sell the property. We're not selling the house. We have properties in Kirkwood, with Native Americans, we have properties in Latonia. My grandmother, who finished like your mother, high school at the age of 50, went back and got her degree. She owned 3 properties in Latonia. She set the mark, and my mother carried it on. It's a journey in the family. I'm disappointed that this place isn't filled up. The message is not getting out there. We gotta fix this so that we have generational wealth. It started creating from where we are down to the next generation and to the next generation. You have to do that. If you don't do that, we have to create what you call a 20-year plan. The white guys in Kirkwood, that was a 20-year plan. Tom Cousins, the Estate Complex, all of that was a 20-year plan. And the white guy told me. Okay? So you gotta start with your schools, you gotta start with having your banking. So it takes this type of effort so that these people who have projects can come up in front of you and put it in front of you and know they have qualified expertise. And you gotta share it. You gotta understand you can't take it all. Right? I understand. And Mr. Ho over here, you can't take it with you. So you gotta give it back. If you don't give it back, our plan will not succeed. This is a plan for all of us. The Stonecrest and all of Black America. We got to do something to make that change. Now my question for you now, we talk about generational wealth. We got to change the times. Our system in America is about to change. The dollar value is doing this. We're shifting to something different. In Europe, they're definitely shifting. They're trying to cut us out. They're trying to change to gold standard. We all know that. How do you recommend that for the average Black American, we make that shift to the standard? America's dollar is based on debt. Euro dollar is based on debt. So how do we position ourselves so that we can deal with the commodities in Africa and all over the world that's going to allow us to be able to make that shift, maintain our standard? Anybody can take that question.
Guess I'll just
brave enough. Again, it goes back to education, and I agree with about bringing our families together. A lot of times, we look at our family history and we look at the negatives in it. We have to look at the positive moving forward. You cannot drive your car and runs out of gas pushing it from the front. So we have to push progress. Progress goes this way. So with a shift, if you know a shift is coming, then you start to plan for it. You're going to plan to succeed or you're going to plan to fail. We have to start in our homes. When we start in our homes and we're raising our children to do the right thing, then they become an agent in the community. So we can't continue, as Mr. Allen said earlier, finding the negatives, because you're going to find negatives everywhere. You take those negatives and you utilize them in a positive way. So in our community, if we keep saying, well, all black people can't work together, then there you go. It's not working in how we work together. That's more important. And again, when you start in your home, then you make impact in your community, then you make impact in your county, then you can make impact in your state, then you can make impact in the world. So again, I used that word earlier, accountability. We have to become accountable and start to educate our people, start to change their mindset, and get away from the problems and the progress.
Okay, we have time for one more question. We ran way over. I'm just looking at the time. We didn't have a lot.
Thank you for being last, and hopefully I can top this off. When I look and I think about what this future is, or not just Stonecrest, but in terms of all the building that's coming, I want us to think in terms of workforce development. Construction is one of those career pathways that are exposed to the educational system. The skilled trade sector, we know, has a huge demand. There is a skills gap, and the baby boomers are retiring. They took trades out of the schools, so that's a resource that we have to put back into our community. Black Wall Street was built by us, for us. Those skill trades were there. Who's building our future? What I would love to see is where we invest. We have the economic development, and we have these beautiful buildings being built, so we're investing in our community. But what about the human investment? We have to also look at our education system and those areas that we need to implement education about our economy and the physical building of it. So based on what I would like to see is, let's say we invest, like we said, what we were saying, we have, $10 billion of construction happening. This has to happen from the onset, pre-construction, pre-conceptual, right? So it goes back to the developers and it goes back to the owners. So if you're going to invest into Stonecrest, I ask you, please consider putting a line item in that for work. You invest $5 million, percentage of that goes into the workforce. That means for apprenticeship programs to be implemented within our community by our specialty trade contractors. The money will be spent for labor. A building like that may cost $10 million. Who's going to build it? What I'm seeing right now is a lot of foreign companies coming into our community and building. The workforce sometimes is limited. That means that $10 million is going not into our building space. The money doesn't. A plumber, an electrician can make $100,000 a year. If we want to build for the future, we have to develop the workforce today. An apprenticeship program for a welder is 4 years. So if we're gonna build something in 2020, what, we're in 2023, if that building is in that ground break, then imagine how we can transform our whole community by having skilled trades workers equipped to be on that project. That means that money stays in our community. That means we have to go to the schools now. We have to bring the awareness now. We have to invest in creative use of workforce development programs now. So we have to build for our future today. I was on a Southeast Region Renewable Energy Conference at the Georgia World Congress Center. And in that conference, there weren't a lot of people that looked like me and you. They own the company that's going to bring all the solar panel and all the green energy jobs. They don't have anyone representing us. That means all these billions of dollars coming down from the infrastructure bill, if we don't have somebody there to tap into our community. So I just want for those who are in the built industry, when you've got investors that come to you and says, we want to invest in this community, and we want to invest this amount of millions of dollars, please have that conversation about who within that development is coming from our community and pathways for that money to stay within our community through workforce development programs, new entrepreneurship opportunities, because we're electrical companies, suppliers, our own welding company, our own flooring companies. I have a woman in construction training program simply because women only make up 10% of the industry. In the skilled trades for 4%, and of that 4%, 0.04% are people that look like us.
So Herman, if you want to maybe feel that you work with students and architects, if you could give us kind of what's happening from that perspective of construction, and we'll wrap up.
Certainly. With many municipalities, especially getting monies from the city, from the state, they are requiring that you have a certain percentage of minority involvement. There are a number of excellent, top-of-the-class African-American contractors and builders, one of which is C.D. Moody. I mentioned his name in public and private. He's also a very good friend with Commissioner Cochran Johnson. But he's very, very intentional about inclusion, about giving back, about working with students. I believe it's a studio at Howard University in the School of Architecture that's even named after him, because that's where he was trained as an architect. So opportunities for implementation, you want to make sure, we all want to make sure that with those trades, with those consultants, with those people that come in, be very diligent about asking, who are you hiring? Not just younger people, but are you hiring people from the community? Are you going to be hiring people so that they can help to build their businesses? I was sharing with part of the panel that we're part of a much larger entity, one of the largest architectural firms in the nation. That's important. But it also now gives us placement in 18 different cities across the country. And it gives me the ability to have a team of 900 people. When we're looking to building, we need to be demanding that as well. We need to be making sure that minority-owned companies, and as Mr. Allen was some majority-owned companies, you want to make sure what's their DEI platform. What is their platform about diversity, equity, and inclusion? And that goes to not just where we work, who we work with, as well as who we employ. So these are excellent questions about moving the conversation forward, and now is certainly the time to have those questions. And being able to have people like Dave Moody, people like the Russells, these are African American builders, contractors that are doing major things to help shape our communities.
Thank you all for that. Let's give our panel a round of applause. Before we conclude, I want to make kind of a couple of final statements. One of the things that I want you all to appreciate is that the most important thing that you all can do here before you leave is to make sure that you go out and shop with our vendors. Whenever we have these events, we have to make sure that we go buy you a ginger juice, get you a little dashiki, you know, you gotta go back to the right side of town, you know what I'm saying? But make sure that you support the vendors.
Some ice cream, some cookies, something.
And even to encourage you more, on the line, NBWSM have put together a raffle card to where we're raffling out over $5,000 in prizes this summer. You guys got $100 for the raffle card, so we got a trick for you. But we want to make sure that you, also Miss J is in the room. Do we have any other vendors in the room? Miss J, stand up. Make sure you go by Miss J's gift shop. All right, she's on Gaston. We want to make sure we support her as well as all of our other vendors. Now, thank you all for coming today. We are going to be doing Town Hall 4 on Juneteenth weekend, so y'all mark that Saturday. Now, I want to make sure you all come back. We're going to continue to provide our community with this kind of insight and information. And again, you all are good as to what we need to be doing and building to make sure y'all find a way to invest those dollars and get behind Mr. Allen's vision as we do as well. So the last thing that I like to do is to finish this off. I like Mr. Allen, and also I want to mention we have some strong resources in this room. In addition to the panel, I want to go back and have the folks from the real estate firm also raise your hand one more time for me. You have Chris, who's on our Stonecrest Development Authority. That's who we're developing our land with. Also, Mr. Hull, the young lady talking to phone and getting it to South DeKalb. I hear that clearly. And we have an expert in the franchise world here. So there are a lot of experts in the room that you all can network with afterwards. And we want you all to network and then want you to go spend some money. But my final words are kind of our final recap. Mr. Allen, you will give us our final charge and what we're going to walk out of this room thinking about as we go into this Memorial Day weekend.
Real simple. Think about shopping. Thank the panel, each one of you, for coming and spending time with us. Thank you as an audience for taking it. This is the time everybody's busy. We thank you for coming and listening and participating with us. And we hope to see you real soon. Tell somebody about the new Black Wall Street market. There's one more thing we're going to have for you in the very near future. We're going to have posters where you can be our ambassadors to place in various businesses around town so that people who do not know about New Black Wall Street market can come and visit us. By coming, you're greatly appreciated.